Hello everyone, All Ohio Railfan here. Finally, model train reviews have since found their way back onto the channel. And what better way to start than by reviewing the brand new C39-8 locomotive from ScaleTrains.com for their rivet counter line. Now, before we get started here, I would like to put out a disclaimer not just for this review, but for all reviews coming in the future. The information provided in this video mainly revolves around opinions within the model railroad community or facts about the model in question that I can represent on camera. So don't assume that any of the information represents my personal opinion unless noted otherwise by me. It is also important to mention that I myself am an independent reviewer, so any review that I put out doesn't represent the opinion of ScaleTrains.com or any other companies in question. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. The C39-8 is a 3,900 horsepower diesel-electric locomotive that was produced by General Electric between 1984 and 1987. Despite the popularity of the -8 models, only two railroads bought the C39-8s new from General Electric, that being Conrail and Norfolk Southern. When Conrail was split in 1999, Norfolk Southern and CSX took in a small fleet of C39-8s, with 8204 shown here representing one of the 13 that were sent over to Norfolk Southern. And 8204 in particular was originally built as Conrail 6007. Contributing to the limited popularity of this model was its constant reliability issues, like overheating, turbocharger failures, and fuel injection failures, just to name a few. However, the C39-8s remained useful enough to stay in service until the late 2000s, where most of them ended up in the scrapyard, sold to South America for continued service, and the only operational example of a C39-8 left in the United States is former Norfolk Southern 8212, which currently resides at the Pennsylvania Northeastern Railroad. ScaleTrains offered this new run of C39-8s in August of 2023, and it didn't take them long to ship as they arrived here just recently in December of 2023. Models featured in this release include Conrail, Conrail Quality, Norfolk Southern, CSX, and the former Pennsylvania Northeastern twins 8211 and 8212. With the details on all of these variations depending on which era they represent. ScaleTrains also offers these models as a DCC ready configuration or a DCC with ESU LokSound configuration, mine of which being one equipped with ESU LokSound and DCC. As we go in for a closer look, here is the pilot of the C39-8, which as you can see is really nicely done, with a separately applied snowplow with grab irons on top of it painted white, separately applied MU hoses going through the plow with silver tips, the train line hose in between the ditch lights being a nice red color, as well as the plugs and receptacles that connect to the hoses also being separately painted as well. The most important detail featured on the pilot are of course the ditch lights, which are lit with LEDs and flash when you blow the horn. But you also got a nice coupler cut bar above the ditch lights, and white accented steps on the side of the pilot as well. Moving on, we then come to the front of the C39-8, which also looks really good as well. You got separately applied grab irons everywhere, painted a nice white color, separately applied windshield wipers on top of clear plastic inserts in the windows, the Conrail lettering on the front of the nose is nice and crisp. You got a lighted headlight above the windshield, lighted number boards as well, which are also really nicely detailed as the number boards are mounted behind a clear plastic glazing insert, which makes it look like number boards behind glass, which is a nice touch. Moving down to the chassis, we then come to the nicely detailed truck side frames, which look really good. You got separately applied and hand-painted details all over the place, the rotating bearing caps, in addition to the painted wheels, which is a new feature. The AC 4400s were the first locomotives to get this feature, and they're now an industry standard for all rivet counter locomotives. but you also got all the plumbing and stuff above the trucks as well, which also looks really good. The fuel tank is pretty modestly detailed, but there are some hand-painted details like the fuel cutoff switch, the fuel cap, the sight glass, and a few other things on the fuel tank. You also got the retention tanks on the side, in addition to more of the nice plumbing detail we already got to see. Moving back up to the front, we are now going to go down the side of the C39-8 starting at the cab. You got the patchwork with the new number, 8204, a small NS reporting mark underneath the number, and you also got a white sill stripe that's going down the side of the engine as well. By the windows, you got windscreen detailing, which is separately applied, and the windows are actually also separate pieces as well, and they open and close, although with most HO locomotives, they pretty much move freely and move into weird positions, but that's something I can overlook. Also, while we're here, it's important to mention that the cab of the C39-8 is what made these so recognizable, by the curved roof contours, and the roof contours itself of the cab is actually shorter than the dynamic brake hatch behind it. As we continue down the long hood of the locomotive, we see all the hood doors molded into the plastic body, in addition to some separately applied detailing like lift rings and etched metal screens, especially around the dynamic brake section. The Conrail can opener is really nicely done, although there are some voids in the paint where the latches are for the doors, but that's pretty much par for the course. As we move towards the back of the locomotive, we then come to the radiator section, which is really nicely done. The Conrail lettering is also nice and crisp. We also got a bunch of etched metal screens underneath the radiators where you can actually look inside and see the radiator detailing behind the screens. But we also get to see the rear truck with its details, and also the hand-painted details on the fuel tank that were not in focus in the previous scene. On the very back of the locomotive, we have similar details to what we have on the front, like the MU hoses, the train line hoses, grab irons. You also got the rear headlight and number boards, which are lit with LEDs. And also in this shot, you could see the plated over marker lights on the back, which are also present on the front. And pretty much some of the other details that you would only find on the back are these spare knuckles on the rear pilot. As we spin around to the engineer's side, the detailing is largely the same on this side, except for a few hand-painted details here and there, and screen placement as per the prototype. Coming back to the front one more time, we are now going to take a look at the roof of the locomotive. Starting at the cab, we got the headlight and number board assembly, which is really nicely done. And here you can see more clearly how detailed the number boards are as well, in addition to the plated over marker lights next to the number boards, as well as the antenna arrangement on the roof of the cab. Directly behind the cab, we got the etched metal screens for the dynamic brakes. And if you look closely in between the grating for these screens, you can actually see the details of the dynamic brakes underneath, which is a nice touch. Directly above the engine compartment, we find molded in latches and stuff on the roof, a Leslie RS3L air horn, and a nicely detailed exhaust stack painted silver. Directly behind the exhaust stack, we then have the radiator section with nice safety treading for HO crew members to walk safely on the radiator section, in addition to some more molded in details and layered etched metal grills, which look really nice. Alright, that pretty much covers most if not all the details that this ScaleTrains C39-8 has to offer. Some of you may be tempted to ask me what my favorite feature is on the ScaleTrains C39-8. Well, my pick for favorite feature is the road name and road number specific detail, which may come as a no-brainer to some. The reason why this feature is my favorite is because it actually shows the craftsmanship in making one of these models. It really shows the amount of time, effort, and research ScaleTrains put into this to give us a model that we enjoy, which is something I really appreciate. You have seen all the details the C39-8 has to offer, so Now let's take it to the Model Railroad Club, hook it up to a train, and you'll get to see how well it runs, in addition to some of the sampling of the functions the ESU LokSound decoder is equipped with.
On that piece of track you're on, it has a thing called the auto reverser, and when it has a DC engine on it, it'll kind of tell it to reverse itself and it'll go backwards. So you might need to like push it a little bit through. Yeah, it's the auto reverser. You just gotta like kind of push it.
Oh, that's cool. No, but you know what would be better? What if it's not? Yeah, that's okay. Maybe we can do
Yeah, I have it because that's what I got from. I got a good deal. Because it's a DC sound after the extra control box, 205.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm in the hole about 230 now because I got a motion decoder for it.
Yeah, no, I think if I remember correctly, when I got it when it first came out, brand new. It was what,
Alrighty folks, that pretty much wraps up this review. What can I say? In addition to the nice details, when I took this to the club for the first time, I was blown away by its performance. If any of you are interested in purchasing one of these, the retail price for the standard DC models are $199.99, and $299.99 for the DCC and ESU LokSound equipped models. Now, most of the road names on ScaleTrains' website are already sold out, as these are very popular models, but if you go through a decent brick-and-mortar or online dealer, you should be able to find one, and you could possibly get a good discount off the retail prices. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Leave a like or a comment down below to share your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and tap the notifications bell if you want to be notified when a new video gets posted here on the channel. Till next time, this is All Ohio Railfan, signing off.